Hello, food lovers, and welcome back to Foodies. Settle down, settle down. A show about different types of food and cultures and good places to eat. I'm your host, OJ, aka Orange Juice. I know. And this is episode 22. Today we will be talking about what food is being served in schools, particularly West Ranch High School. With an increase in obesity for adolescents, many parents are concerned on what their child is eating in school. Many parents rely on the National School Lunch Program to feed their children good food while they are in school. But food distributed by the National School Lunch Program contains some of the same ingredients found in fast food, and the resulting meals routinely fail to meet basic nutritional standards. Although the NSLP is not given enough money to provide healthier options for students, so Washington needs to give schools enough money to cook and serve unprocessed foods that are produced without pesticides or chemical fertilizers. When possible, these foods should be locally grown. More countries are starting to shine light on the problem of obesity. Like the Spanish government has given the green light to this law of safety in food and nutrition, which prohibits the sale of food and drinks which have high contents in saturated fats, trans fats, salt, and sugar. This law came into play after a recent study published in March of this year by the Spanish Agency of Food Safety and Nutrition discovered that 56% of adults and 77% of children and adolescents are overweight, and that this is a direct result of them overindulging on red meat, sweet drinks, and cakes rather than the traditional and healthy Mediterranean diet. I'm not speaking for everyone, but I know that I enjoy the cookie every now and then, if you know. Okay. I even had the privilege of asking some West End students their thoughts on this issue. I asked them the following questions. How do you feel about the food that they serve at your school? They explained that they like the food that they served in the cafeteria and that they provide a good selection of food. If your school were to change out unhealthy food and replace it with healthier food, would you buy it? They responded with they would buy the healthy food because it would be beneficial, and that they might even buy it more if healthier options were available to them. Today I'm joined with AJ and Sage, who will shine more light on this topic. AJ, what are your thoughts on this pressing issue?
Thanks, OJ. I'm really excited to be here and give my side of the argument. I believe schools like West Ranch should replace unhealthy foods with beneficial and nutrition high snacks and meals because serving healthy food will save money, unhealthy food is everywhere, and it will persuade students to make healthier choices.
It's very interesting, AJ. Thank you. Sage, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I believe that schools should not make lunches healthier because it's expensive. Students are throwing away their food, and there aren't enough calories in healthy food.
Okay, thank you, Sage. Let's focus more on the money aspect. What do you think, AJ?
Well, in an article written by Mark Bittman entitled Bad Food, Tax It, and Subsidize Vegetables, he writes, there is little disagreement that changing the food could improve our health and save tens of millions of lives. There are not many people out there who will say that the food served in schools and many other places is healthy. By changing the snack stocks in schools, it would make the students healthier. One of two options would definitely occur. The first is that kids would have to eat and will therefore be forced to buy the healthy foods in the stores. The second option is that switching the foods would save money for the students. If they are so hooked on eating bad food, seeing the healthy food would deter them from spending money every day on food they may not even need.
It's very interesting, AJ. Everyone loves saving money. Sage, what are your thoughts?
Well, I was listening to a broadcast the other day, and they had a parent of 2 children who eats just about everything mentioned that it takes about 3 to 6 weeks to convince them that good food, tasty food, may come in different colors than what they're used to. Well, it takes some time for the students and any other people to adjust their eating habits because they've been eating unhealthy for so long. It takes at least 3 to 6 weeks to adjust their eating habits. What is happening to the school during the time? If students aren't eating it, then I think it's a waste of money.
I believe that food should come in different colors. AJ, what do you have to say about this?
Well, I'm going to talk about a different side of money. In an article written by J.L. Kramer Atwood, she writes, competitive foods can provide funds for worthwhile school projects such as sports, equipment, facilities, and scholarships for students. However, marketing practices may encourage overconsumption of these items. Understandably, the vending machines at schools are intended to raise money for various school functions. However, this may be hurting the students more than it is helping them and the school. The easy access and the cheap prices are promoting the consumption of these unhealthy foods and allowing the students to believe that the food is okay. Vending machines are filled with foods high in fat, calories, and sugar. By replacing the fatty foods with foods high in nutrition, kids will be more inclined to choose those foods and therefore make healthier food choices in the future.
Thank you, AJ. I know if I was in school, I'd want healthier options. Okay, Sage, what are your thoughts?
An article called Why Are Children Throwing Away School Lunches? A man named Purdue said in a release that if kids are eating the food and it's ending up in the trash, they aren't getting any nutrition, thus undermining the intent of the program. This means that students are throwing away their food, and because of this, they are not getting any nutrition. Everything they have planned is basically going to waste. They will continue to throw away their food unless they can adjust to the new food. Until then, the government will continue to use the money, and as students will continue to throw away their food, just as if they were throwing away the government's money, which in the end is our money.
I really like what you had to say there, Sage. Anything else you have to say there, AJ?
So another quote by Miss Atwood says that today most nutritional problems involve overweight, sedentary lifestyles, high intakes of energy, dietary fat, saturated fat, added sugars, and sodium. Sage, you say that most students are throwing away their food. However, how can they be overweight if they're throwing away all of it? As seen by this quote, junk food has a high amount of all things bad for you. When schools take part in the selling and distribution of junk foods, they are not helping the student at all. Who can parents really depend on for giving healthy food to our youth if they are surrounded by the unhealthy food 24/7? Teenagers are not able to spend money on the elevated prices of healthy foods, so schools should help out with that. Instead of selling only junk food, sell an equal or even greater amount of apples, celery sticks, or healthy foods.
And Sage,
An article called No Lunch Behind stated that school food should be grown locally. Yes, it'd be great if all our school lunches were grown locally, but it's not that easy, especially a suburb like Santa Clarita, because it would be hard for the farmer to deliver fresh ingredients every morning and then the kitchen staff to cook everything for those students. In the same article, Alice Waters and Katrina Heron once said that if the school lunches were to change, it could be done for $5 per child, or roughly $27 billion a year, plus a one-time investment in real kitchens. Yes, that sounds expensive. Well, it is expensive. Because right now the school lunches are about 3 or 75 cents if you are in low income family. But for the lunch to go up $2 more, it is expensive for some people. Let's say the school changed their lunch program to a more healthier side and the lunches are now $5. That means approximately $75 per month. If you were to compare that to the old school lunch, it's about $15 per month. It's good for the long run, but there are students who need lunch money every day because of certain family circumstances. There are students who have very busy parents. If those parents do not have the time to prepare the child's lunch, I think schools should at least help with that, whether that be the bare minimum or not.
Sorry for that technical difficulty there. But Sage, did you say $27 billion?
Yes, I did.
That is crazy. AJ, your thoughts?
Okay, yes, locally grown foods and better kitchen prepared foods are better, but that would all be to waste because if you think about it, most students leave during lunch. I interviewed a student named Jake Wheels and who actually attends West Ranch, and he says, I do not really know how the food is at school. I leave at lunch most of the time, but the few times I do get food at school, it is usually pretty bad. When I asked the student what he thinks about food at West Ranch, he said he did not really care about what is served. He usually leaves at lunch, so many would suspect that high schoolers go out and get food, and they do not get healthy food. Instead, they get Carl's Jr., McDonald's, and other fast food places. There is no need to be surprised because a high school student most likely does not have an abundance of money to spend on the healthier types of food. Fast food is already outside of the schools, so why should schools also serve bad foods? School needs to be a place where healthy food is served because outside there is just too much.
That's very interesting, AJ. Compared to the students that I interviewed, they both have very different opinions. Sage, what do you have to say about this?
Well, in the same broadcast that I was watching, another parent said that their kids are active and they're not the ones that are basically getting, not enough to eat. The calorie limits are meant to attack the obesity problem, but not hunger. You're not going to have your kids be hungry. The school is making all kinds of food healthy so that they can lower the calorie intake, which is great for students who are facing obesity. However, what about the students who have high metabolisms? Students who have high metabolisms eat a lot because they burn it off quickly and they get hungry quickly. It's just something that they're born with. They eat a lot because they have high metabolisms, but they can't be left hungry just because the National School Lunch Program wants to focus on students with obesity. I think that's just unfair for these students.
Very interesting, Sage. I agree with what you have to say. AJ, anything you have to say?
Yeah, I just want to make one last point, referring to the Mark Bittman article. He says we could convert refrigerated soda machines to vending machines that dispense grapes and carrots as has already been done in Japan and Iowa. By replacing the unhealthy foods in schools, we are no longer encouraging young kids to consume foods high in sugar, salt, or fat. Some places have already made the switch, and it is shown that there is improvement in health. Excuse me. I messed up. Switching the food could lower health insurance costs, as stated by the article. Kids and grown-ups will be healthier, allowing them to save money on their health insurance.
Thank you both for your insights. Now let's get a public opinion. Hello, caller, and thank you for joining us on Foodies. What is your name, and what are your thoughts on the food that is being served in schools?
My name is Madison, and I think that the foods that are being served in school aren't good for kids to eat, and that they should be healthier and have healthier choices on school menus.
It's very interesting. Would you like to collaborate on what you have to say?
Yeah. I think like school lunches have high fat entrees, and that they can cause kids to develop type 2 diabetes and cancer and become overweight later on and become obese.
Very interesting, very interesting. Anything else you'd like to say?
I also think that it would be a good idea to limit the choices on food menus in schools to low fat and moderate fat entrees, and so that kids are able to choose those low fat entrees when they decide to eat at school.
I agree with that completely. Anything else you'd like to say before we end this call?
I think that's about it.
Okay, thank you very much for your opinion. And sadly, that is all the time we have for today. Stay tuned next week to know what places in California have the best Italian food. Maybe it's Olive Garden, maybe it's not. I guess you'll just have to tune in to find out. Catch you on the flip, food lovers. Bye! This podcast is brought to you by Paunchburger, and we'd like to give a special thanks to Samuel Hine for a successful podcast. Have a great day.
Shut up. It's awesome. Put it in your body or you're a nerd.